Alright, folks, I feel like it's been a little while since my last play of Primordialis, so here we are again. Today I would like to do a sort of tutorial-style run, and the idea is I just play through normally, and I will try to explain things in a little bit further depth, meaning that if you're new to the game, hopefully you will be able to learn a little bit extra through watching this particular episode. And for all of those who already know the game quite well, maybe you'll get a little bit less, but maybe you'll find something that you haven't learned just yet also. That's the hope. So I'm going to go ahead and set up my creature like this because there's some XP over here. XP fades over time, so I want to make sure that I get that. XP scavenging is really good in the early game. So yeah, you get a whole bunch of biomass cost early on, just by killing that first enemy. And then there's always this first deposit of cells. And that first deposit of cells is really important because it actually has an increased likelihood of dropping cells that will basically be very rare for your future. There's a couple of them, like Seeker, Basic, and even Ability Trigger can show up. Even Heart, if you're incredibly lucky, can show up. And what that does is it halves the cost of the biomass. So normally this costs 1 per basic cell. 1 biomass cost per basic cell. And with 2, they're now half that. And every time I pick up another version of that cell, it'll go 1/2, 1/3, 1/4, and so on in that path. So the first one is a huge improvement to your build, and I would highly recommend grabbing 2 of every cell that you plan on using on your build, at the very least, if you can manage it. If you're paying close attention, early on there I used spikes to kill that first boss, and I'm coming back to this area to build because it's a passive zone and enemies can't really attack you. So we've got a couple of decent options here in the early game, but I'm going to go ahead and try to make a vacuum build that will hopefully be fairly effective. So we're going to try and pull enemies into our spiky maw here. That is the game plan. Then we're going to make sure that we've got enough HP, and then we're going to improve our general size and durability by enlarging, and something along that line looks pretty good. We're going to make sure that these are powered with our ability trigger cells, and now we have to decide whether we want our Seekers at the front or the back, and I think I'm going to put them at the back this time around. Seekers are interesting because they reduce your drag quite significantly, so they can be really nice at the front of your creature. And yeah, for this scenario, I'm just going to have them on the back because you generally want them to be furthest from your center of mass as possible. That is the objective, and that's what we're going for here, because that'll give me the most leverage in order to be able to turn with it. Also, we have some hearts down here, not combined with this, because that's going to improve the biomass regeneration of the stuff down there, which should be pretty darn helpful. So yeah, this is a very effective early spike build. But note that the current version of... Okay, those guys are so dangerous with vacuum. Gotta be really careful. You can see our HP is in a lot of trouble here. But this white bar is basically our effective HP. Once we go into this green part, we're graying out. And when you're graying out, your cells will lose their effectiveness. They won't work to their full potential anymore. And once you hit that final interior white bar, you will die from anything that is a direct source of damage. So there are certain things that won't kill you. Like, you can survive very specific scenarios, but it's not worth counting on, I would say. So you can see here we're getting ripped down once again. We've got the dark zone biome here. This green zone, by the way, it has a lot of XP to gain in the early game, and it's got some pretty interesting little paths that it can connect to from time to time, so it's a very high value location. It's worth checking out pretty regularly, I would say. That said, it looks like we are not connected to anything too crazy, so we'll leave that be for now. And right now, it's clear that our build has a bit of a weakness to poison and venom, just due to how we've been interacting with other things. And we might end up swapping out to a jet build here. I could see that happening. But yeah, Primordialis, very fun game. Just been so busy with other games lately. Been really enjoying Cleanfall in particular. I hope everybody watches those videos if you haven't done so already. Make sure you do, because if you like Primordialis, you'll like Cleanfall more than likely. And yeah, I want to do some more content on that game as well. This enemy is particularly dangerous in the early game, but as long as you can run him down before he starts summoning like crazy, you'll have a pretty decent time. That's exactly what we managed there, which is nice. Now, you might notice that I've gotten quite a few level ups, and I've got a fair amount of biomass built up already. The main reason that I don't upgrade my build while I'm, you know, in this sort of scenario where I can, is because you can put yourself at a very significant risk upgrading with potential enemies nearby, which is why I tend to try and make sure that I'm in a safe zone, or that I, like, really need the upgrade, and then that's when I will go ahead and make sure I improve my build. But that said, on the first floor, it tends to be the least important floor to do that on, because outside of your first, like, 1 or 2 upgrades, you will be more than powerful enough to destroy everything on screen with relative ease. And now we've got Angry Cell and Breakaway, which is going to be a core part of making a drone build. So, drone builds are one of the most effective subclass things you can do to a build in Primordialis. And it takes us from not being able to kill the first boss to being able to kill the first boss very easily. So we're gonna go ahead and absolutely use that as our boss killer. This guy's like 99% dead. It's always good to scavenge enemies whenever you've got the opportunity. Seeing enemies that are grayed out, you should just take advantage of that. It's just free XP, essentially. But yeah, we'll go ahead and move a little bit closer to the boss, and then we'll adjust our build to be something that will be able to take the boss down, hopefully with relative ease. The first boss recently, at the time of this video, has gotten a buff to swap out their spikes for impact cells. And impact cells deal damage based on velocity, which means that, you know, it does an insane amount of damage if you just ram into them, which is a classic strategy for beating the first boss that is essentially no longer functional. So now, I would highly recommend non-contact methods of defeating the boss. So, acid, electricity, lasers, literally anything where you don't have to touch the boss directly is going to work for you. And obviously, sometimes it can be a little bit tricky to come across something like that, especially in the early game. But, breakaway cells are a good avenue into potentially finding an angle for dealing damage without taking damage, because you can just take the part of yourself off that you want the boss to trade with, and then you're not taking direct health damage, which is ideal. Here's another angry cell. Because we only really use one angry cell, it's not really super important to get multiple of it. Yeah, it tends to be the sort of cell that you don't need a lot of. So, just having a singular one is totally acceptable. And we spotted the boss up there in the top right. If you're ever wondering where to go in Primordialis, you can zoom out and you can see these dots. These represent the location that you're trying to go to. Like as a general rule, if you're looking to just progress through the game, that's what you want to do. But yeah, let's go ahead and do a little breakaway angle on this build. So we're going to go ahead and do a little something like this. And we want this thing to be able to go fast. And we want this thing to have energy. And we want this thing to be able to be powered. Or that we want this thing to have a brain. So we're going to use that. And then this ability trigger cell is going to permanently activate... it's going to permanently activate these power switch cells, which are going to permanently activate these angry cells, as well as these jet cells. And then all we need to do is fill out the rest of the body. And we're going to make sure that there's stuff on the sides there, so that way it's got improved control. And then we're going to leave some holes back here, which is actually going to give it even further control over its maneuverability and whatnot. Note that if you're building particularly well, you don't need these, but just as an early game example, we're doing that because this increased drag is going to make it so there's a bunch of drag in the back, and then the front is going to have a much easier time moving the way that I want it to. 3 hearts is probably excessive. I could probably get away with 2, but, you know, we'll adjust as needed. And I think we're going to go with a large spike like this. Now note, spikes deal more damage based on the amount of open sides they have. So these 2 spikes will be doing significantly less damage than this particular spike, because this spike has all of these locations that are open. But obviously, if you can get something like this spike would do significantly more damage than any of these spikes. So it would be worth considering, like, turning the build on its side here and completely refabricating. But for the time being, we'll go ahead and go with something simple, because whatever we get out of the boss is going to end up deciding a lot of what we're going to do with our future build. And let's go ahead and check the stability of this really quick. So we'll fire one off, and that is controlling quite beautifully the fact that it's able to keep up with that creature. And we'll go ahead and fire another one like this without and see how it goes. So it looks like it's actually doing... It's definitely faster. It's definitely a little more chaotic. You can see it's struggling a little bit more with its mobility. But it's definitely doing the thing. So I guess that's kind of an optional little flourish if we want it, and I'll leave it as is for now. But we will make further adjustments. You can see we still got a lot of points, so we can just go ahead and pump that into HP here. There's nothing wrong with doing that. It's good to have HP. And yeah, once again, we've got the first boss over here. Oh, I guess I didn't explain the Seekers on this. So the Seekers will influence my movement a little bit while it's attached, but while it's detached, it'll influence the movement of this. So your drones actually can use angry cells to their own advantage, and it's pretty darn good when they do. So, yeah, we're going to go ahead and use that to our advantage, and we're going to just back up and poke at this guy till he dies. Only took a handful of shots, and it was a nice, easy kill, because he doesn't really react to drones the same way he reacts to enemies, so... Very nice damage output, and we've got an easy kill. So we've got entropy reversal, we've got strafing, and we've got parasitism. Parasitism opens up some cool builds. Entropy reversal opens up a very easy source of overcharge. Overcharge being a really, really handy mechanic for all sorts of stuff. I should have a tutorial coming up for that very soon, so make sure you keep your eyes peeled for that. And strafing is for very specific builds. If you want to make something similar to the first boss, then I would recommend strafing, actually. It's really, really good for perfectly multi... if you've got, like, rotational symmetry, it helps a lot with those builds. That said, we are not a rotational symmetry build for now. We're just going to keep with something simple like this. And I'm going to take entropy reversal, because that is going to open up some future... electrical options for me, which will mean that we can potentially scale up in a couple of various ways, which could be very fun. And here we go. This is a great find. So this is our first combo cell here. So this is a leeching combo cell. Leeching is exceptionally strong. I wish I had taken so this is one of the things that you should really do, is you should clear out floors before picking your perk, because if I had taken parasitism and I had a double leeching cell, I'd be basically quadruple leeching. If you nest 2 of the same cell type together, it'll basically give about double the power. If you combine 2 separate cell types together, it'll kind of do a mixture of the powers. So if I were to put spikes with vampirism, it's going to make it so my spikes deal less damage and the vampirism deals more damage over time. So I'd want a slower build, because vampirism is a consistent damage over time. It doesn't care about how long things are, or how hard things are hitting. It just cares about how long things are touching for and how much contact you're making. While spikes care exclusively about making contact quick and fast. So a little bit of an anti-synergy in some ways, but some people really do well with them. And if you pair them with all the right things, it can actually make for an incredibly powerful defensive build. So, we'll go for that, and we'll see how it goes. Because it'll make it so our drones are more durable as well, just by default. Which is kind of nice. Now, the biggest trade-off of combining two cell types together is you can see that my spikes went from 5 biomass cost to 11. Because the leeching on their own is 6, so 5 plus 6 is 11. Doi. But yeah, now we've got this combination which is going to be healing and dealing damage at the same time. And the lethality of the spikes should remain, because leeching is non-lethal, but spikes are lethal. So spikes should still be able to do lethal damage in theory. And yeah, we'll go ahead and try that out a little bit. And I'm going to have to adjust this because it's looking a little floppy. But we'll jump into the next area and see how things are going. And let's see here. We're doing well on our cell count. Everything's looking good. Sometimes I recommend staying in the first area a little while longer because you can find a lot of cells for there with relative ease, and it can be a great way to power up in the early game. That said, it's not absolutely necessary, and sometimes you are better off just progressing. We've got another combo cell over there. Combo cells can be the absolute lifeblood of a run. It's very, very high value materials that you'll end up finding. And it helps you break the game in some really wild ways. Note that they're not, like, absolutely mandatory, but it is very nice. We're getting ripped to pieces by that enemy up there who's got 3 of my drones on him. They really seem to be struggling to kill at this point. One thing to note about combo cells, I can't give you too much detail on them because they change all the time. It feels like every single patch, the exact science of them changes a little bit. So it would be pointless for me to tell you exactly how it works at this point because they're always changing. But just know that combo cell tries to come up with a compromise between the two types of cells in a way that is favorable for the player. That's generally the way I think about it. There we go, we finally got a kill. You can see these things are really struggling with the kills at this point. I might have to combine them with some other damage dealers. We'll see how we change our things to improve. I've got some ideas. We've got vacuum, which could definitely come into play. And I'd like to play with that. But yeah, one thing to note is level 2 is quite dangerous. There's lots of very, very spooky enemies here that can absolutely, completely destroy you if you're not careful. So we want to make sure that we're taking our time. And also ignoring or avoiding enemies that I feel are too dangerous. If I spent the whole time killing every single enemy I came across, we would be here all day. Definitely a thing that I imagine a lot of new folks are doing is trying to kill every single enemy that they come across. Don't bother. It's not worth your time. You're better off just goofing around and moving as much as you can. Try to find all the goodies throughout the map and then carrying on to each boss. And of course there's lots of level ups to be had as well. Level ups are super high value. What have we got here? We've got a detach detector cell. So detach detector is really nice because it's great for drones. It's an automatic drone activator. I'm currently using Power Switch, which is an excellent and more versatile tool, I would say. Detach detector as an electrical generator is interesting, but it's more of like a one-off. You could combine it with something like Angry Cell to just have like a singular thing. Have a one cell doing 2 jobs, which is nice for space efficiency, but not necessarily nice for cell cost efficiency. It really depends on what kind of build you're going for. But yeah, that is the big question when you're asking, should I combine 2 cells together, is should I combine these cells despite it increasing the cost, right? Like that is always the question. I'm gonna go ahead and put some some of these spikes on our sides here, because this guy is clearly causing me some problems with his additional speed, and hopefully he'll go down relatively easily if I actually play to that a little bit. There we go. I was able to just work with that while it was attached to me, and it worked out pretty well. You can see we've got a whole bunch of these dudes on this one enemy. But yeah, I think we've nerfed down our damage quite a bit. Hopefully we can find another thing to combo cell with in order to improve our damage once again. Something like a heat cell would go a long way toward improving our damage once again. Although, no, I guess it wouldn't because we took Entropic. So I guess we'd have to find a spike combo cell or an impact cell, something along that line, which might... it's probably one of those scenarios where we're just going to pivot off. The more I think about it, the more I'm realizing that's probably going to be the best answer. Or I could make significantly larger drones. That's also a decent option. There we go. That guy got killed nice and quick. Seems like the larger the enemy, or the bigger the enemy, the harder they fall, as they say. That's kind of the vibe that I'm getting with this. And if you've noticed, just by watching me playing, not sure if I'm a second monitor Andy or not right now, feel free to let me know. Do you watch this content main screen or second screen? I don't take offense either way. But I am curious. Where was I with that? Oh yeah. So, enemies, they're not dying super well, but the larger enemies are dying a lot better than the small ones. We've got another power switch cell. So I know it shows up green here, but if I were to combine like 2 power switches together, for example, that's just going to double the power and increase the cost. So, not really worth doing there. Not really something that I want. But, could be a decent option with enough biomass. And that's the thing, is we're using a decent amount of our biomass at this point, but definitely not all of it, that's for sure. But yeah, we're kind of wandering around, seeing what kind of goodies we can find. There's a charging cell. And you can see we are finally approaching max genome size. When we hit max genome size, that means that I'm going to have to start dropping my cells in order to pick up new ones, because, you know, if I want a particular cell, that's the only way I'm going to be able to get it. And there's definitely quite a few more cells on my list that I would be very happy to have. This is definitely one of them. Negating cell is one of the best cells in the game. Being able to invert an an electrical charge on demand is incredibly valuable and can be used in just an absolutely innumerable amount of ways. Like, it's crazy how valuable it is. A good thing to note, if you're trying to dump a particular type of cell, the things that have the highest genome size are either high rarity or more weaponized. So you'll see something like this has a genome size of 16, which is quite a lot compared to, you know, like this, which has a genome size of 4, which is, you know, just a basic cell. And it would be nice to get some speedy cells instead of some basic cells. But what do I get rid of for it? Probably elastic. I don't think I'm using elastic on this run. Well, actually, so elastic has a hidden trait that makes it really good at insulating against heat and cold. So it could be very useful in the near future, assuming we can get an entropic reversal build going. So, and we're not too far off from that. We might be able to do an entropic reversal vacuum, which would allow us to basically pull everything into us from afar, which could be potentially very dangerous, but it could also be really cool. And in this game, I'm all about doing the cool thing if I can. I really do enjoy making the dumb stuff. That said, for this run, I am focused on trying to get as far as possible. I can't guarantee a win. I have won this game, but most of the time, I do not focus on winning. Most of the time, I focus on making something fun. So, we'll see how we do this time. I am going to try and win, though. I promise I won't veer off and decide that I would die for something, although, I don't know, maybe it'll happen. We'll see. We will see. But so far, so good. I mean, we haven't had to change our build at all in quite a while. And I'm trying to get over here, but you can see that I took a wrong turn, so we're going to go ahead and loop around. Something that a lot of people like to do is actually build a mobility version of their build where they can basically just make an attachment. And I guess I'll show that off right now. So what you can do is you can just like stash your drone and then have like a line of these, and then boom, you're good to go. So now I've got a mobility variant of my build, and then I can pull that back out of the stash, and it's very, very handy for the early game. And I mean, whenever you're looking to do any sort of travel, having a travel variant of your build is pretty handy. So I don't mind doing it. I don't really do it too often because it does put you at significant risk. You can die doing stuff like this, especially with enemies like this building up around you. It can be pretty dangerous. But as long as you build back... So I could hit Control-Z or I can pull this out of the stash. I'm just going to hit Control-Z because that keeps my drone in the stash. And that way I'll be able to keep it in there for later, which is very handy. We've got the boss looking at us here. Go ahead and start poking away at these things. They should die pretty quickly. And this next boss is incredibly weak to explosives. And that said, drones in general are exceptionally strong. So I'm pretty sure if we throw enough drones at it, it will eventually die. That said, you just got to be careful not to get caught up inside of it. So the main design of this creature is that it's got hard cells all the way along the outside, and then its very front has a vulnerability where it's light cells on the interior, and yeah, there's a light cell opening on the front. So if you can cut it in half, that's a really good method for killing it. But you can see what I'm doing is I'm just chipping it down slowly. You can see that it's starting to gray out, and as long as it grays out faster than I gray out, I will end up winning this just by battle of attrition. And that is the beauty of summons, is that they don't activate your... they don't stop you from regenerating. You can just keep regenerating as long as you don't get hit. At one point there I did get hit, and our regeneration did stop, but thankfully it did not end up mattering, and we ended up winning that fight, which is very nice. So that's another victory for us, another boss down. So we've got some interesting options here. We've got drifting, we've got strafing, and we've got smaller cells. Smaller cells is exceptionally strong when you pair it with anything that is looking to do contact damage. So acid is really good for, like, just shrinking the area. Electricity is really good for that. And then, like, spikes are really good for that. And explosives are good to some degree, but it also becomes your greatest weakness. So it's a little bit of a weird one. Oh, also Venom, too. Man, pretty much it just makes you offensively better in pretty much every way, but it makes you defensively significantly weaker. So it's a little bit of an ask to take, because getting exploded in one hit sucks. It sucks quite hard, so we want to avoid having that happen. I'm going to look around a little bit more on this floor, because I didn't really find anything that I was looking for to improve myself very much, which is a little bit disappointing. I'm really hoping to find, like a thermal cell, or, you know, stuff along that line. Is that? No way. No way, dude. I don't know if I've ever seen one of those before. That's crazy luck. It's crazy, crazy luck. That's incredible. So that's, we can double up our spikes. So the thing about doubling up spikes is that it's really expensive, but it also increases your damage, like, immensely. So we're gonna do that. It's kind of a no-brainer. It's kind of that is super rare, by the way. So that's gonna be good luck finding those on your runs. If you really want, you can see the seed in the bottom left there, and you can try the seed out for yourself. But yeah, we'll go ahead and combine this, and you can see it now costs 22 megabytes to pick up, which is insane. 28? Yeah, and I have 22 free. Okay, so I need to dump something. I'm gonna dump the normal vamp, because we're not using that. And I will dump... I don't know. I don't know, that's a tough one. I like most of what I have. Health monitor cell is pretty nice, and health infusing cell is also pretty nice. Those two combo really well together. Hopefully you can figure that one out. Charging cell we can dump for now. Okay, there we go. So hopefully this will fix our damage output by a fair amount, and we'll probably refabricate our build a little bit here as well. I think we'll try to shrink down our drones and make them a little bit faster and a little bit more controllable. Let's go ahead and see how these things do. Wow, that did so much damage. That is doing... It did like a lot of damage and then it stopped doing damage altogether. It's weird. Their spikes are... Their spikes are getting like deleted. I don't know what's causing that. But, yeah, we're gonna have to play around with that a little bit. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to test them without drones for a little bit in Zone 2. Zone 2 is a really, really good area to experiment once you've completed the first boss, because it allows you to do so in relative safety compared to the third biome, which is where you have to really start to lock in. Things get a lot more challenging and dangerous there. Drift would open up some damage potential if we want to go down that line. That's an option. We've got capacitive here, which I'm not too excited by, but that's okay. Let's go ahead and do a complete fresh build. Note that while you're like this, if you don't have any cells, you'll die instantly, so, you know, be careful about that. But we're just gonna make like a... I don't know. There's a couple things we could do. We don't have... The thing is we don't have like a ton of resources to go super crazy. I wouldn't be opposed to doing like a snake build. I haven't done a snake build in a while. But obviously then we're not using our breakaway antics or anything like that. So yeah, these things, we really want them strategically placed at specific points. So like, spamming them along the whole body is just too expensive with this variant. If we were to do this and we had like 3 or 4 sets of spikes, we could go crazy. If we had chaotic costs that rolled well, or if we killed the right boss, we might be able to start to spam them. We'll see. But I think for now, it makes the most sense to go for a small build, and that's just what we will go for. So we're going to have, yeah. That's what we're gonna do. Okay, so we're gonna have hard cell cushioning around some hearts. Hearts are going to be fully defended like so. And we are way over cost. So we need to reduce the amount of hearts. We need to reduce the amount of hards. Something like that looks pretty good. And light cells are really dangerous to have anywhere near your hearts, because sometimes stuff will like fracture into little pieces and then it'll get inside you and then you'll die horribly. It's very awful. I wouldn't recommend it. So yeah, we'll go with a little something like this. And God, this is terribly expensive. I'm genuinely surprised by how expensive this is. It's not that much stuff, but I guess that just goes to show how much value we were getting out of the basic cell cushioning. So hard cells defend against explosives quite well, which is in the next biome where we're headed, essentially. And we want to have essentially a layer or 2 if we're planning on going small mode, which is what I would like to do. And yeah, we're going to work our seekers in here along the front. And then we're going to have these tactically placed like so. And I am going to use an anti-missile method that I've developed. And basically these are designed to eat missiles and nothing else. So hopefully this will work well for us. And we can avoid a lot of damage by doing this. So I'm gonna do something like that. And as you can see, we are still just a little bit over. So we're going to cut a couple of those. And yeah, this is our new build. So let's go ahead and get that going. I need my jets. Speed is of key importance on pretty much any build, so definitely want to have those. Note that I could get away with just having like 1 or 2 to get all these going, but it does increase the amount of electrical energy flowing through them, which is going to give us a greater boost, so that is valuable. And yeah, we're seeing some really excellent damage coming out of that, so that's looking good. We're a little bit on the slow side, which is to be expected with the way we've set this up. There's a lot of drag that we're dealing with, but the damage is looking good. And I'm gonna... It's really scary to go small mode. It's so scary to go small mode. It does become useful later, though. I'm gonna do it. And I'm fairly confident with this build. I think that this thing might be able to go to the distance if we do it right. So, next step is I'm gonna go kill a bunch of enemies on the next floor, and then we'll go from there. I'm going to work in some elastic on this build in order to reduce the amount of heat energy that I might end up absorbing off the walls. So just a little something like that, a little bit of elastic on the interior is going to help with that. And yeah, obviously we are very small for an area with large enemies firing off missiles, which is very spooky, but we'll see what we can do. And yeah, that was a nice, reliable kill. Missiles and explosives are the main thing you have to be worried about here. And if you haven't done so already, make sure that you're playing very zoomed out for this point, because this is where enemies are going to start to snipe you pretty much off-screen if you're not careful. And yeah, shit gets real. I'm going to have to make an adjustment to our build design when we get to the next boss, because the next boss is basically a super summoner, and we don't really want to mess with that too much. Not from close range, at least. We've got acid as an opportunity here, which is kind of nice. But I think for now I'm just going to clear up, which is going to open up more opportunities to me. Let's see what kind of goodies we can find. This guy is a little bit low health, so I'm going to go ahead and get involved. Enemies are definitely a lot more interested in preserving their own life at this point, so they will start to run from you. And yeah, that is just part of their code. It's baked into them at this point. And you'll see that certain enemies I'll go after a lot more than others, and that is purely due to the ease of hunting. So like, these guys are very offensively powerful, but very defensively weak, so if I can kind of get in on them, they really struggle. And I'm just going to go ahead and put this guy in a loop while I'm waiting for my my health to come back. That way I hopefully don't get one shot. Getting one shot in this area is very common, so you gotta be really careful. But yeah, so far so good. Things are looking really nice. We've got impact cells there, so if we wanted to get a little wacky with it, that could be a decent option. We gotta be a little bit careful of this guy. I don't really know how much or how well we stack up against this guy, to be honest, but it looks like because we've got such strong spikes, we just win outright. So that's a really good sign. It's a very, very good sign, because that guy's kind of a pain in the ass if you're a normal spike build, but we are not a normal spike build, not by a long shot. This guy seems like he might be able to kite us forever if we just go at him directly, because he's firing so much stuff backwards. But maybe we can team up on him a little bit here. We'll see. We're starting to get that damage going. That definitely adds up. Oh, he's running now. He's running now. You can see the speed of this thing kind of sucks, but it's pretty good. And the little arms have been really helpful. Yeah, this guy is probably one of those guys that's not worth chasing down. Just go ahead and pivot targets here. Go for something a little bit simpler. There we go. That guy kind of blew himself up there. He was using vacuum cells, which is obviously very dangerous. Vacuum cells are very much a instantly win or instantly lose type of cell, especially when you just hold down the button like that. But thankfully, we had the favorable matchup there by a relatively significant margin, seemingly. Unfortunately, we don't really have anything. Oh my goodness, I did not see that coming. I'm gonna see if I can poke this guy into the wall. There we go. One more poke and he should die. There we go. That's good. That's kind of what we want to do with our build. Because we're so small, we're able to fit in here really easily. And we finally got our thermoelectric, which means that we can now generate immense amounts of electricity. So we can kind of pivot our build again here, should we choose to do so. And I can also make myself entirely heat immune as well. Radiant would play into that quite well. So I could permanently freeze things and then get my scaling vacuum going. That seems like a pretty natural line. I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of that because this is another damage scaling method. We've already got a damage scaling method, so we'll consider what to do with that. And I'm just thinking about if I could do like a... I don't want to do negative vacuum, positive acid, because that will make the acid suck into me, and then I will die horribly. That's not a good play. We'll see what kind of goodies we've got available. Breakaway, this thing is, as a modifier, is pretty useless most of the time. Pretty much the only time you really want to use it is when you're giving it to the enemy via mutagenic poison. Otherwise, it's very, very specific and not very helpful. This guy's being a real pain in the butt. There we go. I managed to get him. He's being very tricky to get. But yeah, I'm trying to clear a bit of a path to a side boss that we're going to take out in the near future. But it's also just a way for me to generate some XP before we go after the third zone boss. Yeah, we'll go after a couple more of these guys. It is very nice to have the XP. By the way, there is no under-leveled or over-leveled in this game, I would say. Like, it's just whatever you want. Like, if you have a vision for that additional XP, then go get it. But if you're happy with the way your build is working and it's killing everything, and you're not, like, getting low health on various engagements, then I would say that you're at the right power level. But yeah, if you are, like, struggling with engagements, that is a sign to change your build. If you just barely survive, that's your time to get the hell out. I've made that mistake many a time in the past, where I'm like, oh man, I only barely survived, let me try again. Maybe it was a fluke. It's like, no, it's not a fluke. Go fix your build. I'm sure there's even possibly someone watching right now who's been like, what's wrong with you? This was my advice. So yeah, we're gonna take a bunch of these thermals and they're gonna be very nice. We've got wandering here, so you could do like a wandering angry. I've tried that in the past and it is very disappointing. I'm really annoyed with how well the wandering seems to make it so the angry just ends up perfectly dodging the stuff that we want to interact with. But yeah, it's just not that worth IMO. What do we have up here? Is that another thermal? Ooh, it is. So if we go thermal instead of double thermal, that'll make it so we can have super powered thermal, which is very nice. We'll probably go for that, because that'll just increase our power level even further, which is awesome. It means that thermals are going to be more expensive, but the capacity will be stronger, so it'll be worthwhile overall, I believe. And we've got another radiant here. Not helpful. It's very tempting to make our funny vacuum build now. But it's also very scary. This is the sort of scenario where, like, pivoting my build will potentially kill me if I do it wrong. So I'm a little bit afraid. But you know, it's science. Sometimes you gotta do some science, you know? That's just how it be. So this is gonna be a vacuum hexagon that will never turn off and do... It'll just slurp everything up and hopefully kill it, like, instantly. That's kind of the plan. Now, my biggest issue with that is I'm gonna be slurping up all these spikes and explosives. which is a little bit worrying. But we do regenerate quite a lot if we do it right. So that's kind of what I'm banking on. And everything's going to be frozen, so it's not going to be able to move in a way that is positive for it, necessarily. Negative is pretty cute, but not really what I'm after. This guy's got some wacky reactions going on with him. Just gonna ignore that. That's not my problem. We got more spikes. You gotta be kidding me. That's crazy. Spikes are super rare. So finding spikes anywhere is very fortunate. That said, we've got combo spikes, which don't get reduced in cost by normal spikes, sadly. That would be far too strong. Got one of those guys on the loose. As you can see, I've been skirting around the Dark Zone a lot. Dark Zone leads from one biome to all the other biomes. It's a very, very valuable region. Partially because it's quite easy. It's very, very easy to explore safely. But also partly because it allows you to get to everywhere. Like, you get lots of resources and you get to go everywhere. And it's got, like, rare stuff in it, too. Like, things that you are less likely to find, you will find there instead. Which is cool. So there's a couple methods that I could use to create this creature. And I think my biggest concern is that, oh man. I didn't keep the thing that allows it to heal, but it's gonna heal automatically. So what I'm thinking is I'm going to make a creature that I'm gonna make a thing that detaches and surrounds me, and then it's going to, I'm going to control it from the inside. I think that's what I'm thinking. So let's go ahead and give that a go. We're relatively safe here. If you really want to, you can reduce your drag down by surrounding your body in seeker cells and climbing back up here. I guess I'll show that off because we might as well. We're going to be doing a full rebuild anyway. So yeah, make sure that you minimize your drag as much as possible. So we're going to get rid of all this. And then we're going to surround our body with something that has very, very minimal drag. And this is that. So we're going to make sure we got a lot of this. One thing to note is you can't use Pure Seekers because they don't have any swim speed. So if you use Pure Seekers, it won't work at all. But you can see you can swim back upstream here and put yourself in a very safe position to do a build, or a rebuild, I should say. Which is quite worthwhile, in my personal opinion. So, yeah. If you're not feeling safe, go find somewhere that is. Let's go ahead and do our threefold. And we're going to commence our creature. So, I want an exterior like that. And then this exterior is going to have radiants that are affected by thermals. And those thermals are going to have a negating. And then we're going to have a vacuum that is pulling in. So to have a vacuum pulling in, obviously negating is going to be frozen from entropic. This is going to be generating the freezing. And then we're going to have the vacuum be negated, which is going to make it... So we're inverting this to be a positive charge. And these are both being fed positive charges now. And then we're going to have our spiky combo cells, like so. And we'll do it like that. That looks pretty good. Or maybe we should do it like this. And then we have like hard cell here. Okay. And then we're going to fill in this interior with basic cells and see how close we are to our goal. And you can see here that we are way, way overdone. So we're going to have to reduce our costs wherever we can. And we're going to want a hard cell exterior here. We're going to want conductive along here. And then we are going to want some ability trigger cells, which will detach us. So this will detach that whole thing. And we might have to shrink this system down a little bit. But it does, it resembles what I want it to, is the important thing. We're going to go ahead and take off the threefold symmetry, and I'm just going to place a couple of these here, which is going to give us that additional control. And this whole area here is just kind of a giant weak point, so I think I need to shrink this build down significantly. So in order to do that, what I'm going to do is shrink the interior primarily, I think. So let's go ahead and give that a try. This is gonna be a little weird. We'll see what we can do. So I'm thinking something around that size maybe. And then we do that. And then we will completely redo what we just did. But I think that this is the correct size. And we will just take this whole function here and move that in like so. And then we can get rid of some of this extra junk and reform that. And would you look at that? We are now in business. We're just a tiny bit over right now. But I'm pretty happy with this now. I think we'll just add a few more spikes like that. And it's not perfect by any means. We have a lot of room for growth. But it looks pretty good. Let's see if I can work in just like a handful of these so I can control myself a little better. Nice. Okay, so let's go ahead and give that a go. So we're gonna oh, so I gotta detach it. Oh, I see what I did. Okay. Uh-oh. Interesting. Okay, so what I have to do is I have to put the... So right now, this is attached to the outer ring. I need to attach it to the inner ring instead. So, yeah, that's a bit of a thing. That's a bit of a whoopsie, but that's an easy fix. So, what we'll do is, get rid of these guys along the outside ring. Go ahead and do an interior ring. Like so. And I'm also going to do an elastic ring. And the elastic ring is to make it so I don't get too cold. Because I didn't really account for that earlier, but I should have. Okay. And then we'll have these guys here. Oh, I should have that on. There's no reason not to. And we'll do these. This is still, like, more layers thick than I need. I could probably simplify this down or, like, change the shape of it to make it a little bit better. But yeah, let's go ahead and put some power switches here. And, that'll make it so these are permanently active. We'll do it like that. Okay. That looks good. And I'll do the same thing with the interior as well. So when I press that, we've got this permanently off part. Oh my. Interesting, interesting. Hang on. What went wrong there? Okay. So that grows out. Right? And we press this. And then it gets powerful. Right. And we've got this missing chunk of life, which is a little bit spooky. Oh my. Okay. It's shrinking me quite a lot. Interesting. Okay. And it kind of activates on its own as well. Wow, that's weird. It's very strange. It's not really working the way that I want it to. There's something to do with combo leeching spike that is making it, like, very unstable. And I'm not really sure what it is. You can see the vacuum range is going to continue to grow. Oh my god, it's doing so much damage to me. It's gonna kill me! God damn. Hang on. Just make it stop. Okay. This thing is a menace. Give me some interior spikes so that way I can destroy it. So this build didn't work, but that's okay, because it was purely experimental, and we just wanted to see if we could make something functional out of what we had, and that wasn't quite it. But that was an effective setup, so we just have to ask ourselves if that's going to be strong enough to deal with enemies going into the next area. And having a runaway, freezing menace of a build where I'm pulling in things, I don't know. It's very scary, but like it's also really cool. It is really cool. I like it. We can get a little bit bigger. I do like the get out of jail nature of the breakaway system, but I feel like I want this to be attached to me the whole time, almost. So let's try this system again, and this time we will adjust this to be much tankier, so that way I can just endure any damage coming our way. And we're gonna do it like that. There we go. So that should be really, really durable. And then we'll have some light cells here, and these will be easy for it to break, but it shouldn't be too big of a deal. And then we can have just a few outer cells like that, and then I need to move these out here. Hopefully this sort of thing is useful to folks. Obviously this is a very heavy focus on building, but that's exactly what Primordialis is. If you're not spending like a giant chunk of your run building, then what are you doing? what do you that's the whole point of the game. You gotta build stuff. Okay, let's reduce our hard count a little bit. So maybe we can get rid of this inner ring. And do something like that. And can I get like that? No, I can't. Okay, so I'm thinking second hard cell layer, just for bulk. And do a couple more of these. Alright, and then we're gonna need just some of these guys. Get that going. There we go. So we're very slow. Alright. We are very slow. This is like the slowest build I think I've ever made. But I think that's okay. Let's give it a try. I'm a little annoyed by how slow it is. But I'm sure we can make some adjustments to improve it. Let's just get into the next level. This could be the end of the run here. But I hope that I've granted some good ideas on exactly how to play Primordialis, or, you know, even approximately how to play Primordialis. Wow. It is, we're freezing, and it's making it very hard to move. One thing to note about this build is that, I mean, obviously it's kind of fucking stupid. I guess, did I explain how entropic works here? So entropy, heat from your cells will be negated. So normally, radiant cells generate heat when activated with the source of voltage. And normally, thermal cells will, an increase in heat on a thermal cell will create a positive charge, while a decrease in heat will create a negative charge. So we're making a negative charge, which we can infinitely loop, essentially, using radiant cell. There is a cap to heat and cold, but it's very, very high. And then we're using negative to loop that back around to being cold. Or loop that back around from being negative to positive. So we're positive and positive here, and our vacuum super strong, and it's very good. I'm realizing that if I put in some... I'm gonna put in some breakaways, and I'm just gonna, like, turn these off and on every once in a while, and that should allow me to more freely move, in theory. So, I just need to do that. And then I need to do this. But they're permanently active right now, so that didn't quite work the way I want. I think maybe something like this might work well. Let's try that out. I just gotta experiment a little bit. You can see that we can take these off and on. And it's gonna take away a little bit of our life. But in theory, it should help us move a little faster as well. Okay, here's our first enemy, and we're dead. Okay, run. So, this is where emergency building becomes a thing. We're gonna go ahead and take these off. And we're gonna focus on dodging, and then I'm going to adjust the build to be like this. And hopefully, with any luck, we'll generate fast enough where I can go, like, leave and adjust my build. Okay, so that's good. We survived. Really good job, me. Except for the part where I almost got myself killed with a stupid build. But other than that, you know, we're alive. This is an important thing, is learning how to emergency build. I'm just gonna pretend this is a part of the tutorial. It is a part of the... Learn how to build on the fly. Don't panic. It will cost you your life. Okay, we're gonna get the fuck out of here. Ow. I blew up a little bit. Okay, we're okay. We can get back up here. Back to the drawing board, right? We try again. But, yeah, that was obviously terrifying. It didn't work. So we're gonna try something else. We have this fantastic setup, but we can't really use it with what we want to use it for right now. So I think instead we're going to go ahead and try to make a very large ramming build with the stuff that we've got access to. So we're gonna do something like that. And we'll just try like a nice chonker of a build where we have some this in the back. So we'll have some of those, and we'll do some of these. Really nice to have extra mobility like that, and sometimes just making a very large build is the strat. You gotta keep in mind we do have the shrunken stuff going on with our build, which is a little bit scary. But we will adjust as needed. This isn't gonna... We're gonna have way too much, aren't we? We have way too much cost, yeah. With the double hearts. So we'll probably adjust that design a little bit. Just do a line of hearts instead. And that will make it relatively safe, all things considered. And we're going to have some exterior light cells. So light cells are really, really bad against basically anything that does like persistent damage. So it's really, really bad against spikes, but it's really, really good against explosives. So in this biome in particular, I personally find them to be worthwhile to have a decent amount of, but they're definitely worth experimenting with. They just tend to be a little bit dangerous as well, so something to goof around with a little bit. But we'll go for something simple here, something like that, and adjust our build as needed, and probably do away with some of these center hearts. And yeah, hopefully that'll be pretty okay. Let's go ahead and give this a shot. So remember that we're small, but like also we're not. So that's a bit of a thing. I'd love to get some more of these guys going because this is going to improve my mobility quite a lot. And maybe we can shave this down a little bit. There we go. That's good. Okay. Moving pretty well. Go ahead and give this a try for a bit. But yeah, this is obviously a very, very simplistic build, but that doesn't mean it's bad. Sometimes a simple build can be a very effective build. And we'll see how it goes. I definitely need to tank a couple of shots against these guys just to figure out what it's going to be like going up against the third boss, which is what I'm going to do now. And after I'm done with the third boss, before we go into the jungle biome, I'll go try to take on the next optional boss. There is an optional boss in this game. I don't know if they'll add more, but the current one is quite cool. Big old whirlpool boss. Very, very neat. Just keeping an eye out for any cells that might be of intrigue. You never know when you're gonna find something cool. But yeah, I'm a little disappointed with myself for not getting that build to be working the way I want. But we'll see if we can't fix it up. So remember, we took damage at the same time here, so our regeneration rates are going to be basically identical. But I did take a crap ton of damage there, so I'm not really super comfortable fighting this guy. Which means that I shouldn't be comfortable fighting the third boss either. Which means I'll probably have to change things again. Gonna have to do the drone shenanigans. And I know I'm making drones look OP. And that's because they kind of are. They're very good. But, you know, everybody's gonna have their own preference for builds, and I just find drones to be particularly effective. Let's see if we can't blow this guy up a little bit. That is very good. The little 1-2 punch. Working together against each other. Okay. So sometimes he'll show up to this boss and he'll just kill himself by accident. So I guess we'll check and see if he's even alive to start, and then we'll go from there. If he's alive, then I'll build against him. If he's dead, then I don't have to worry about it. But odds are he's alive. There he is. Okay. So let's go make a quick build. We'll set up here. Okay. I want a bunch of drones. And I'm gonna make a bunch of little guys. That's the plan. So let's get rid of all these, because we're gonna need them on my things. And then I'm going to build some little spots here. So first let's build the drone, and then we'll build the spots for the drone. So we're gonna do maximum simplicity and try to get like a bunch of them going. That's the plan. We'll do this. We'll do our angry cell. We'll do this. We've got hard cells here for stability purposes. And then we're going to have our power switch. And move that there. And heart up one. And that looks like an effective little drone. So let's fire it and see if it fires well. And if that fires well, then I will make a whole bunch of them. So that will release on its own. I need to take these off, and we're going to make this side my aiming. It's basically an aiming platform. That hurts a lot. Let's go ahead and add some elastic to the build so that doesn't happen. There we go. That should absorb a lot of the heat. And I'm gonna dump all this because it's not feeling great. Oop. And yeah, we're gonna go for something a little bit simpler. Obviously, this is looking very simple currently, but we will continue to adjust as needed. Here's a dude. Go after this guy. See what happens. Okay, they're doing a pretty shit job. So I think we need to make them slightly larger. So that way they have better control. So we will go one wider. And several taller. We'll add one more heart into the mix. And we don't have any reason to be this big, so we're going to shrink down as well. And yeah, we'll do a single spike, because single spike is very, very controllable in theory. So we'll go like that. And like I said, I can shrink my own build down quite a lot, which is what I'm going to do. Got double hard cell now. Just going to improve my durability. And we'll do a little bit of this action. So this is reducing the drag, and it's going to give us that ability to choose where we're aiming. And I'm fairly confident with this build design, so I'm going to go ahead and dupe it. And one thing that it needs is additional support, so we're going to give it that as well. I think we're going to sync this build in a little bit. Like so. There we go. And then we will do a little bit of this, which will give it some additional room to work with. We gotta make sure that that's fully surrounded. And basically this is going to improve the amount of speed that these detach with. So that's kind of the objective there. And we can have these conductors be on the interior here. So that way they just detach themselves whenever this power switch goes off. In theory, we'll see if it works in practice. Yes, indeed. Perfect. Okay, so we'll get firing these guys off. We'll see if we can get a kill on this rather basic enemy. Based on the chase down that's happening, yeah, okay, that works well. Beautiful. Beautiful. We've got a build. Now, all that's left to do is finishing touches on HP. So we're going to have HP fairly close to where we want the biomass to be regenerating the fastest. And we'll slap a little bit right here. Just keep it nice and spread out, so that way one explosion doesn't just completely take us out. Got an elastic line here for defense against heat. And I'll do the same thing here. Just a little bit of elastic to help with that. And yeah, we should be ready for that boss fight now. We've got a significantly stronger drone setup that we're working with here. Okay. It's definitely a little bit on the fast side. Okay, let's deal with any of these extra enemies because they are what will make things dangerous? Let's go ahead and make sure we're zoomed out for this fight. We're gonna get bonked once. That's okay. He's not gonna fire as long as he's taking damage, because he needs to regenerate. So he's gonna be taking lots and lots of poke damage here from all these little drones. He's getting rubbed up against the lava. That is brutal. He got taken everywhere. That was incredibly brutal. Very, very, very nice. That was excellent. Okay. We've got explosion resistance, which is obviously exceptional. Did we choose to go an explosive build? That said, we don't have any way to power up our explosives, so not really the best option. To power up explosives, you need to superheat them, and obviously we don't have access to heat, so it's not very helpful. That said, the explosive resistance on its own is really valuable. Chain lightning would be great if we ever found lightning, but it just hasn't really happened, so... overcharge is just... it's overkill. We've already got our electricity methods solved, so we don't need it. We don't need it. We'll just go ahead and make it so we can't die to explosives as easily. That's pretty handy if you ask me. Okay. Let's go after the next boss. We should have a pretty good time fighting against them. In theory. In practice, being small against this boss is very dangerous. And could result in some issues. So generally what you're looking for is a path up through this biome or through... oh hey, there's a light combo cell. That's kind of goofy. You're either looking for a path up through this biome or through the jungle biome, or sometimes through the dark biome. But you can see that we've got a nice easy path right here. There's an acid combo cell. Acid doesn't really scale very well with super high electricity, sadly. So it's not terribly helpful. But, it is something, I suppose. Go ahead and grab all this. Beautiful. Up to level 25. So the whirlpool is an interesting place because, you kind of... It's a struggle sometimes to get to the center, since you're just kind of flowing through it over and over. But you can apply the same methods that we use to go back upstream here as well. So we'll go ahead and bank these puppies. Save them for later. I'm not sure if this build is going to be capable of killing this boss as is. We might have to do some adjustments. Seems very likely to me that we will. But, hopefully it's capable, or this version of the build is at least capable of getting us to the center. And, we might have to reduce our drag a little further as well. We'll see. Nope, looks like we got it. We're swimming into the current, because that is going to make things a lot simpler for us. And here we are. This boss is incredibly dangerous because of that tentacle right there. If you get hit by that thing wrong, you will die instantly. Other than that, it doesn't really have too much to be terribly afraid of. Let's go ahead and see how my drones react. Previous versions of this boss, the drones didn't work at all. So, we might have to come up with a completely unique variant of the build in order to pull this off. Let's see, we're taking a big chunk there. Yeah, pretty spooky. Pretty spooky guy. I think we're going to go for a more simple and measured approach, and we're not going to worry about this kind of the build, or this version of the build. These things can't do us harm, I don't believe, but we're going to kill them all anyway, just to play it safe. And we will do a little rebuild once more. So, first things first, let's, I mean, I've already got that part done. We're just going to make a hard cell exterior. We want something like this. And that's what we're gonna use to probe into that hole. And hopefully kill everything within. That is the game plan. We'll just keep it simple. We hopefully will be able to get a kill here. This boss has been through many, many iterations, and it is definitely weaker than it's ever been, but it's still quite a huge threat. That said, the reward for killing it is extremely high, so I personally like going for it. But, you know, definitely a dangerous thing to do. It's got a bit of a lean. I've been told that's natural. We'll see if we can get this working. So, step one is to deal with that spike mace. Oh, he got me. Damn, dude. But yeah, you want to cut that thing off, and then you want to get in there, destroy the hearts, and go from there. If you'd like a winning run of one of these, let me know, and I'll try doing a bunch of recordings. But yeah, this guy, he gives you some really cool stuff. If you've seen any of my other videos, hopefully you've already seen that. Hopefully this is a useful tutorial-style run for people. Hopefully other people also find it entertaining. And yeah, thank you all very much for watching. I'll catch you next time with more Primordialis or other things if you click on my channel and go look, because there's so many things on my channel, and I'd appreciate it. Thank you all very much for supporting me, and yeah, things have been good, so I appreciate you. Bye-bye.